All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to those of you who have joined us. Corey and I are here today to talk about why does it rain every day in Colorado Springs now and ruin my outdoor activities because I can hear it thunderstorming outside once again.
Yeah, just don't do outdoor activities, and it has no effect. That's been my personal take.
No, I love golf and I've got three kids who are play outside all the time. So I need it. I need it to not rain all the time.
Fair.
But yeah, thank you to everybody who made time to come and join us today. We are talking about phishing and social engineering. This is something that we've had quite a few requests from our clients for in the past. And so this is the first live webinar that we've done here at Colorado High Tech, but we are going to aim to do one of these per quarter based on feedback that we get from you guys when we meet with you. So if there's anything that you're interested in or you'd like more information on, feel free to let Corey or I know, and then we'll try to plan something. And if you have team members who are not able to make it today, we are going to take this recording and we're going to put it on YouTube. So we'll send a link out after we're done, and then they can watch it when they've got time.
All right, good deal. So I guess we're ready to go ahead and dive on into this. So today we are going to be talking about phishing and social engineering. And I think phishing is a term that we're all familiar with, but social engineering, that may be one that maybe you've heard of a bit, but it's certainly not something that we typically dwell on. So we're going to go ahead and let's take a look at really everything we're going to be talking about today. So first off, we're going to discuss what is social engineering, right? Then we're going to go into some social engineering attacks that you can expect to see because we're certainly seeing them. And then we're going to discuss some of the different types of phishing attacks. Because again, I think we've heard about phishing emails, we've probably seen them, but there are other types of phishing attacks that are out there in the wild. Then we'll go through, look at an email, and we'll kind of break it down so we can see the best way to recognize these types of attacks. And then we'll go through some more social engineering red flags. And then we're going to talk about session token hijacking, which is the latest and potentially one of the scariest attacks that we've been seeing more and more over the last year. And then we're going to wrap this up by talking about what can you actually do to make sure that you are protecting yourself, your clients, your data, your employees. What can you do to protect all of that from these things? So let's just start off with what is social engineering? And social engineering is, I love that hook. I forget it. It does that every time. Social engineering, it's essentially a term for a tactic where an attacker, a threat actor, a hacker, all these things mean the same thing, where they are going to use psychological tactics to get you to do what they want. And typically, what they want you to do is to click something, download something, give them access somewhere. That's always going to be what they want you to do. So the thing that makes them really dangerous, though, is that manipulation that's behind them because they will typically use push buttons and emotional things like fear, urgency, or even curiosity. Anything they can do to get you to act now and then think about it later. And that's why social engineering works so well. And it's responsible for the majority of data breaches that we see today. So, but let's go ahead and we're going to dive a little bit more into this and let's take a look at some of the social engineering attacks that we're currently seeing in the wild. So, phishing, we're, I think, again, all familiar with. It's an email, a message of some kind that's trying to say, hey, you know, click this. Now, spear phishing is a targeted attempt. This is where the attacker has done their research. They know more about you, and they have tailored this phishing attempt to you specifically. Maybe it's coming from your boss, or they've used other details to make it more enticing. Pretexting, this is where they may come up with a story that says, hey, I need help, or hey, I'm your IT support, and I need you to click here and do this to help me. quid pro quo, something for something, right? Hey, go here, fill this out. We'll get you we'll get you a gift card. Baiting is similar to quid pro quo. This one's about dangling something tempting, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to be a gift card. It could be access to exclusive content, a free download, right? And again, the goal is just to get you to click on the thing that they need you to or download their malicious software package. Session token hijacking, I mentioned previously, and we're going to dig deeper into this. But the thing to know about session token hijacking is that it gets around multi-factor authentication. And that is what has made this so scary and such a big deal. And then when you combine that with something like polymorphic phishing, it becomes even more important to keep an eye out. And Zach, I'll let you go into what polymorphic phishing is.
Thanks, Corey. Polymorphic phishing is something newer to the scene that we've seen about, that we've heard about. And so it's a type of cyber attack that uses AI to constantly change the code so that it can bypass any sort of countermeasures that we put in place to keep your email safe. And so they may change the sender, they may change the content, they may change the structure of the email. Something in there so that if they send it 10 or 20 times, they're hoping it gets through once if you have any sort of protections in place. And so what is really tough about polymorphic phishing is that for years now, we've used AI in certain products to help protect you. But AI is also now being used by the threat actors as a way where they don't have to spend a lot of manual labor to resend things over and over and over again. They can use AI to change these and to resend constantly. And so it just the sheer volume makes it more of a threat.
Absolutely. And it really has, AI has been used to just take all of these different attacks and really just give them a boost. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at different types of phishing attacks. I think when we hear phishing attacks, we immediately think an email, but the fact is there are multiple different types. So we've already talked about the email phishing, right? This is something that's, hey, we detected unusual activity. Your social security number has been deactivated. I'm a prince and I need a loan, right? These are email phishing scams that we're familiar with. Spear phishing, we already talked about. It's targeted, it's specific to you. They've done their homework. But smishing and vishing, these are two different types that you may not be as familiar with. So the SM in smishing stands for SMS, which is phishing via text message. And this is where you get a text message. And again, the whole thing here is going to be trying to prompt you to action quickly, right? There's an urgency, there's a request, there's something that they need from here. And then phishing is, again, this is something that we're vaguely familiar with, right? Because it's phishing over voice. So the V is voice. And this is when you get an actual call that says, hey, maybe I'm with Microsoft and I need you to do this. But what we're seeing now more and more is a combination of spear phishing and vishing, where they will take AI and they will take a sample of your voice to recreate it, and then make a call to someone who and they will make the AI sound like you. And as far as, where might they get that voice sample? Let's just say, for example, you're recording a webinar on how not to get phished, and you put that up so that people can access it. Suddenly, they have access to your voice and can feed that into the AI. And so these are all things that they're real. We've heard about them. In fact, Zach, if I'm not mistaken, you've recently had some direct experience with some of these.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I think when it comes to smishing, I've seen quite a few articles in the news about how people are sending a lot of us in Colorado texts saying, hey, you have overdue balances for toll road payments, and you've got to pay these now or something bad is going to happen, right? And so in states where there are a lot of toll roads, these have been going out quite often. So yeah, we've seen that. On the spear phishing front, we have had customers that have been affected by this. So one customer of ours, they had their M365 account compromised, and the person who compromised the account was an English as a first language speaker, went through the emails, found a big chain that had about 70 people on it from more than a dozen other entities that they were collaborating on a project, read through all the emails, wrote 3 paragraphs that were really well written. They were, they identified with the project at hand. They had a lot of good details. And then he said he wanted to make some changes that would be updated in this Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. And so 40 some people opened that spreadsheet that had malicious content in it. And so, you can see how one breach really can spread far and wide very quickly through phishing. That one was absolutely scary. We had one where a vendor of ours that we've worked closely with for many years, somebody had their account compromised. They sent me and a lot of other partners an email saying that, hey, the terms of engagement, how we work together and work with clients have changed. Please read this PDF and go ahead and, let us know what you think. But it was written in a really weird and a really formal way, and it didn't look right to me. And so I called the guy that I work with, didn't get a hold of him, but I left him a voicemail letting him know that, was this real or was this, phishing? And a couple hours later, he wrote back to everybody, and we got a notification from corporate as well saying that this person's email was compromised. Don't open anything until they clean it up. And so just on the regular phishing piece of it, I get, I don't know, 50 to 100 spam emails a day from people wanting to sell me something, right? And so if you're in my position, your organization, you probably do as well. They find you on LinkedIn. You get put on all these lists that you never asked to be on, and you spend half your day cleaning out your inbox. And so an email came through, and I'm blazing through all of these, and I'm moving too fast. And I scrolled down to the bottom of one, and I clicked the unsubscribe button. And luckily, one of my tools popped up and said, this is a known malicious website. So we've blocked your access to it. But I was not as diligent as I should have been. I was going too fast, and almost got myself in big trouble there. So yeah, we see this stuff all the time, internally, and then also with you guys, our clients.
Absolutely. And Zach went through there and he has explained, several of the different telltale signs, right? And some of these I think we're accustomed to looking for now, right? Spelling errors, attachments. We're actually seeing attachments less and less because everybody has got it kind of ingrained in them now. Don't trust attachments. But links are in all kinds of emails. Zach just mentioned the unsubscribe button, right? That is a link that you have to be wary of, that malicious, wherever that's going to be trying to take you. And again, even if there isn't misspellings, because we do now see that maybe that's not always the case, you have to read it. You have to see, okay, what's going on here, right? Does this make sense? Is there a generic greeting, right? Is there something here that just doesn't quite click? And then a big thing to always double check is where that email is coming from. Because a lot of times you may get a header that says, hey, this email's from Corey Watts. Then if you put your mouse over that email, it will actually show you the direct address it's coming from. Well, you can bet that I'm not going to be emailing you from h7659g@gmail.com. But sometimes the emails, they're slyer than that. And they've learned, okay, I'm not going to put just a random email in there. I'm going to put something that almost makes sense. And Zach, you actually ran into that specifically.
I did. So we have a web submission form on our website for people who don't work with us now but might be interested. And once they fill out that information, then it comes to me. And so it was from the Heinz Kraft Food Company, and they were looking to buy a couple hundred computers, which who doesn't like, to sell your product, especially in large quantities. So I was like, oh, well, this is interesting. But at the same time, it's like, why does a huge company, why do they not have an internal team that does procurement? It's quicker and it's more cost effective. So I'm wondering what's going on. And so I see the email for the person who wants me to reach out and contact them. And I look at the domain, which is the part after the @ and I copied that. And I compared that to what I found when I Googled, the Kraft Heinz company. And so the domains were different. They added an extra word in there. It looked legitimate, And I'm sure that Kraft Heinz owns a lot of different domains that all point back to their primary domain, but there's no way that they're going to be sending emails out from some domain that you can't find that, is not usable. And so I tried to look up the domain that they had sent it from. There was no website or anything associated with it. So I knew that they were trying to scam me. And so I just deleted it and I went on about my day. But that is unfortunately not an uncommon occurrence for me to have people try to rip me off through our web submission form of all places.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing is that, we again, I think we've started to kind of get used to the fact that emails, these are the places that I need to try and keep an eye on. But, this came in through our website. Yes, it ended up in an email, but that's not how it was sent to us. And so with that, let's take a look at some of the social engineering red flags that are out there so that we can kind of keep an eye out wherever we may be, handling messages. And so here we have, some examples from text messages. And the things to keep in mind are, as we kind of touched on before, an unusual request, right? So, Zach, like you were just saying there, well, hold on, this is craft, you know? And frankly, that's a too good to be true offer too, right? Like, oh, this sounds great. This would be, a great opportunity for us to do. Again, it's anything to get you to act now, right? It's like those ads. Hey, act now, right? This sale's not going to last. They're trying to get you to buy in without thinking about everything that's here that may not make sense. And what's interesting is that as we've been preparing for this webinar, we were given a bit of an odd gift, but it was a gift nonetheless. So, roughly, where's today's date? Yeah, 10 days ago. This was Saturday the 7th. Myself and three others in the office received this text message saying, "Hey, let me know if you got this text. Thanks, signed Zachary King." Now, basically, all of us got this and we're like, this is odd. Now, I actually texted Zach his number that I have for him and said, "Hey, did you send this to me?" Because it just so happened that we were making a change to our phones at the time. So I'm like, I am 99.9% sure this is phishing, but there is a tiny chance that something went weird with his phone number, and that's why he's texting me. But the other thing that all of us caught on this is the fact that it's signed Zachary King. Now, if you've met with Zach, if you notice his introduction earlier, if you look at the name tag that's on his screen right now, Zach does not go by Zachary. He's not out there giving out his legal name every time he walks in a room. So the fact that it was signed Zachary King was a huge tip off for all of us that, hey, something's not right here. And as soon as I confirmed with Zach that this wasn't real, we proceeded to mess with the attacker and attempt to waste as much time of theirs as we possibly could. But again, there was things here that didn't make sense, right? It was a Saturday, and immediately, what does he tell me? He's in a client meeting on a Saturday, and he needs me to bring him Apple gift cards. These are things that just don't typically happen. If I'm getting a call on a Saturday, it's because something's broken. It's not because Zach wants me to run to the store and get him Apple gift cards. So this is where, they're attempting to use the fact, they're attempting to build trust by saying, hey, this is someone you know, and then exploit that trust. And anytime you see an attempt to build that trust, just take a look at the pieces. What doesn't make sense? That old game, one of these things just doesn't belong, and see where you've got. And all of this really leads in to that session token hijacking that I mentioned earlier. So what session token hijacking it is essentially where you receive an email, a text, some type of phishing attempt, and it's almost always a spear phishing attempt. So they've always done their research and they are coming at you with knowledge and information trying to get you where you live. And all they need you to do is click a link, and that link will take you to Microsoft's login page. And the thing is, that login page is accurate. And I should clarify, this isn't just a Microsoft thing. It would work with Google. It would work with really anywhere that you need to authenticate to log in. But what happens is it says, hey, enter your username and password. You enter that in, and it says, hey, enter your multi-factor authentication. You enter that, and you've successfully logged in. And it's a real page. You're really logged in, and everything on your side feels exactly the same. Nothing has changed. You haven't lost access. Big scary red boxes don't start coming up. You keep going about your day after that. But what just happened is you logged in going through the portal that they created for you. They were able to grab the token that was created as soon as you successfully logged in. And so now they take that token, they open it up in a new session on their side, and now they're logged into your account as well. So this creates multiple issues. For example, any cloud data that you have access to, OneDrive, SharePoint, they now have access to. They now have full access to your email, which means they can see communications, but more importantly, they can send communications. So now they can send information as you send this link out to others. And when people are going to look, hey, I just received an email I just received an email from Zach. I know Zach, this is his real email, but it wasn't sent by him. And this session token, it has another name that we're all a little more familiar with. It's cookie, right? Those things that we're constantly opting out of, but it's a very specific cookie. And it allows them to grab that cookie out of the browser-based jar, stick it on their side, and open it up, and then they're you. And they're in there as long as that session is allowed to exist and as long as they keep it active and open. So, and this isn't just theoretical. This isn't just a boogeyman story that's out there. So far, we have seen this 3 different times at 3 different clients just this year, just in 2025. So this is a thing that has been on the rise more and more, and it is out there. So now that we're all successfully uh, upset by this, let's go ahead and talk about what we can do. Because I think bottom line is, right, we're here to help. Knowing about these threats, knowing the red flags and the defenses, that is only the first part of the solution. So the next thing we need to do is we need to actually put those things into action. But again, that's where, we're here to help. We're here to work with you all and make sure that we have a plan and that we put it into place. So let's just go through some of those protective measures. And the first thing is multi-factor authentication. And I'm sure you're like, wait, Court, you just told me that they can get around it. Now you're telling me I have to have it? Yes, because that attack, the session token hijacking, that's the one thing right now that's being utilized to get around multi-factor authentication. There are so many other attacks that we haven't even gone into that multi-factor does successfully protect against. But because session token hijacking has become more prevalent, then your best line of defense is, hey, don't click the link. Just don't click it. But if you do click the link and they do get around that multi-factor authentication, the next best thing is email monitoring. And what this is it's 24/7, where you've got guys that are sitting in just a bunch of cubicle farms, and they are watching the logs that say, hey, this person just logged in from here, and this person logged in from there, and they just created this rule. And they are looking at these alerts, and they have a system that's designed to highlight the suspicious ones. And they are watching for signs that your token has been hijacked. So, for example, if they see that you logged in Colorado Springs, and then 5 minutes later you logged in Mumbai, okay, well, that's pretty suspicious. Maybe you're using something like a VPN, but well, you've never used one before. And so then they start watching, okay, well, what else goes on here? Okay, they're taking suspicious actions. We need to lock this down. But if they say, hey, you logged in Denver International Airport, and then, which again, I don't think it's called that anymore. It's just Denver. But, and then, 10 hours later, you logged in Mumbai. Hey, that makes sense. All right. You probably are traveling, and I hope you have a great time. But this is really the best thing to do if you get past that actual initial breach. In addition to that, we have access controls, right? These are all the things that limit who has access to what. So that in the case that someone does have their access taken, that they aren't able to get the keys to the kingdom. And it's about creating as few keys to the kingdom as possible. Then employee training. This one is huge because, again, the best way to prevent this from happening is don't click the link in the first place. So the more that you are able to reinforce with your users and your employees and yourself, hey, let's take a second look. Does this make sense? Don't click the thing. The better that first line of defense is actually reinforced. Scam reporting, and this is actually an internal process, right? I was reading recently about a Cisco, which is a big manufacturer of, they make all kinds of products that actually we've installed at probably just about all of your locations. And they had a hack that happened several years back. And the way that they got in is because someone lost their credentials. They had access to credentials, but they couldn't get around the multi-factor authentication. And so they kept sending an alert to this person's phone about 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day. And the person was just ignoring it, ignoring it, ignoring it. It was driving him crazy. Finally, after 3 days, he goes, well, maybe if I just hit accept, it'll stop. Well, it did stop because then they had access and they used that access to get into their network and to figure out exactly how far they could spread through the network. Now, thankfully, there was no information loss or anything like that. But what would have happened if they had a reporting structure in place to say, hey, if you see something, say something? If he had just gone on day one and said, hey, this is popping up 10 times, the IT department would have gone, we have a problem. We need to shut your account down. We need to change credentials. And the breach would have never happened. It would have stopped right there. And this is all part of an incident response plan, right? Who is your decision makers? Who should people come to and report these things? And all of these things, though, we live in real active environments. They're constantly changing. We're bringing in new processes. We're getting rid of old ones. And that's why those regular audits to all of these protections are so necessary because things are constantly changing. And the other thing is, in addition to that, the landscape that we're up against is also constantly changing. So regularly auditing all of these processes, it ensures that hey, you're up to date. Your protections haven't slipped backwards. And you know what? There's something new out there that we need to tweak. And all of these things put together is where you can really uh, put a good defense up forward. Because here's the other thing is that I think a lot of times we get this idea like, hey, I'm just a small business, right? They're not going after me, they're going after the big guys. But what's interesting is that there was a statistic that in the last year, businesses with fewer than 100 employees received 3 times as many phishing emails. The reason being, they assume that SMBs do not have these protections in place. So it's not that you're a small fish or a small target, it's that they view you as an easy one. And so that's why it's important to say, hey, no, folks, we need to talk about this. We need to get MFA in place, and we need to make sure that we are being proactive with all of these things. But yeah, that's really everything that we had wanted to talk through today.
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming. We've got 1 minute till we're at time. But if there are any questions, you want to throw those in the chat, we will absolutely answer those. Or if you want, you can reach out to Corey or myself to have a conversation, and we can talk about this further. So I will wait a minute, see if anything pops up in the chat. All right.
Yep. I'm not. Oh, there we
Nope.
go. I just got a question come in. How do you know when an unsubscribe link shouldn't be clicked for junk emails? So that's a good question. One way that you can test is going to be if you hover your mouse over that link, it will show you where the link takes you. And usually these links are long, filled with random characters. But if you look at the very beginning, that's going to let you know where the base website is. So if you're trying to unsubscribe from, your uh, laundry provider, making something up here, then chances are you're going to see, hey, this is coming from their website. But if it starts sending you to random places, you can even take that base URL, that initial website it's sending you to, and Google it and say, hey, is this legitimate? Does this make sense? And again, the big thing too is take a look at the email that you were sent. Does it make sense? Does it ring true? Does it seem like, wait a minute, this is something fishy? So those
So
are good ways.
yeah, and now that I'm scarred by clicking on an unsubscribe, I shouldn't have. I had one that came in today and it was company name first at, and I think it was ccsend.com. And I was like, all right, well, this is weird. What is this? And so I copied the ccsend.com. I went to Google, I searched for it, and it came up as constant contact. And so I was like, okay, so this looks like a legitimate marketing email from a marketing firm. They're using a third party to send mass emails. And so I clicked on subscribe, everything went well, and it was real. But yeah, you've just got to look through. If you have doubts, there are times that I don't know if I should unsubscribe or not. I will just right click on the email and then I'll move them all to junk permanently. So that way, if it is a malicious unsubscribe button, I'm not going to hit it.
Absolutely. And I'm just answering a couple another question that pops in the chat here about what cookies should you accept or just decline. I personally, anytime there's an option, I reject all that are not necessary to view the site. So it's just, the less that people have your information, for one thing, the fewer ads you're going to get, the fewer, of these emails you're going to get. And yeah, that's been the easiest way. And what's nice is that legitimate websites will make that easy for you. Less legitimate or websites that are really selling your data for profit, they may make that a little bit harder, but that's still your best bet. So hopefully that
All
made
right.
sense.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. Once again, appreciate your time. We're going to look to do these every quarter. So thank you for joining us. Remember, you got to be talking about this with your people. There are tools that we can put in place to assist. Any questions, we're always here to help. And once we get this up on YouTube, we'll let everybody know in case anybody else on your team wants to view it at a later date. So thank you very much and have a great day.